Is that all? We should wait for more time for others to join, or only these many students?
Another 5 minutes.
Okay, okay, we'll wait for 5 minutes. By the time I'll get my headphone also, sometimes what you people are saying is not so clearly audible. It is better if I bring the headphone. Just a minute. Yes, I'm back. Look, I will tell you what the plan for today is. I want to revise very quickly whatever is there for M2 syllabus. Then if you have any doubt, you can ask. We can, if you want, you can also arrange another session. I will sit and let me know the time. I can sit with you and solve your doubts. That is the plan for today. Am I clearly audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, at least I will tell the topics which are there by the time others join. It starts with Cauchy differential equation, which are also called homogeneous linear differential equations. We put the substitution x equal to e raised to z and we reduce it to linear differential equation with constant coefficients. Then we solve them normally either using operator method or using variation of parameters method. This is the first topic. If there is any question from this topic, you may ask.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you do
Yes.
complex questions?
Ma'am,
Like,
instead of doing like this, like we had for M1, can you just give an overview of all these topics in brief?
No, that I already said. I am going to do that. But
Hmm.
if there is, This is the first topic. So if you have any
Yeah.
specific question in this, you can ask. Otherwise, I will just go through whatever is
No,
required.
ma'am. No specific question. No. Go ahead.
Okay, you don't have any specific question, but others may be having. Oh, I will first share the screen.
Can you do questions like the ones you gave in the assignment?
Assignment question, the power series one I gave, and then the application question which I gave. I will not solve the assignment.
Can you do one
No,
question
not
from
the
the
assignment, but
basic?
questions like that, like complex ones.
I have not brought the questions.
Ma'am, can you do one question from Bessel's equation?
Yeah, no,
Bessel's function.
I can. Okay. Okay, so your doubt is basically not. I'll quickly recall then Cauchy differential equation and go ahead. Since your doubt is in complex
Ma'am,
functions and
can you make everyone presenter?
why?
यार कौन कर रहा है? Ma'am, can you make everyone attendee?
Yeah, sure. Just a second.
I got removed for the fourth. Us. Attendee.
Yes, I am changing the settings. Just wait. I know there will be always trouble, some people, which generally we don't have in other classes. Your class is something special. So I don't want to waste my time in investigating who is doing that. They should act matured in a matured way. They should realize that they are in first year BTech. I'm going to now. I don't want to allow also people now. If anybody does it, then I'm going to throw them away from the meeting. I have changed the settings.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. We're starting from the first topic of the exam. An equation that looks like this: d square y by dx square. I'm just quickly going through all the topics first, and then you can ask if there is any doubt. The power of x and the order of the derivative must be same. And then you can have some constant time y term equal to some function which we usually denote as q of x. You need to do the substitution e raised to a z which is fixed. You don't have to think about the substitution every time. This is the only substitution which you have to use. Okay, or z is equal to log of x. And finally, remember the final answer that you write, you need to change all z into x terms. By doing the substitution, z equal to log x. Okay, now how does this x square into d square y by dx square reduces? I have told you that you substitute d into d minus 1 for it, where capital D stands for d by dz. And what about x? This is what? This is x square into d square y by dx square. I have also told you that you don't have to derive this expression. I have shown the derivation, but I have told you that you don't have to show it in the exam. You can directly substitute. This is d into d minus 1 into y. The first term is, and the second term is simply dy, where capital D is d by dz. Once you do this, your equation will be reduced to equation with constant coefficients like this. Some constant times d square y by dz square plus some constant times dy by dz plus some constant times y equal to a function of z. In right hand side also you need to do the change of variable. Then this can be solved either by using operator method or by using variation of parameters method. Final solution is as usual written as CF plus PI, and after you write the solution put Z equal to log of X. Final answer should be in terms of X. This is the procedure. Now next I go for power series solution. When do we apply power series solution method? When the coefficients are not constants. You have variable coefficients. Like for example, I will write a question here. X square minus 4 into d square y by dx square plus 2x dy by dx plus 3y equal to 0. Here you can see that the coefficients are not constants, and it is not Cauchy differential equation also. It is not looking like just x square into d square y by dx square. It has also a constant along with that. Okay, so this is not reducible to linear differential equation with constant coefficient. So this must be solved using the power series method. What do we mean by that? You need to assume the solution for this differential equation is a power series which looks like y equal to C naught plus C1 into x minus x naught plus C2 into x minus x naught the whole square and so on. Only thing that you need to be a little careful about choosing this value of x naught. It should not be a singular point. What is called a singular point? You divide by the coefficient of highest order derivative, that is here x square minus 4. If you divide the entire equation by this, then the equation becomes d square y by dx square plus 2x upon x square minus 4 dy by dx plus 3y upon x square minus 4 equal to 0. The values of x which make this denominator 0, which here are x square minus 4 equal to 0, x equal to plus or minus 2. These are called the singular points of this differential equation. X naught cannot be chosen as the singular point. If an initial value condition is already given to you in the problem, you can choose that as your x naught. For example, you may be given y of 1 equal to 2 and y dash of 1 is equal to 3, something like this. This value here, y of something is given, no, that is called initial value of x. If this is given in the problem, then you can choose this as your x naught. But in this case also, you need to make sure that that's not a singular point. This you keep in mind. Most of the times it will not be given as a singular point. You will be able to choose that initial value condition as your x naught. Okay, once you choose that, I'll just quickly tell the procedure. I will not solve a problem. You have written y as a series. You calculate y dash. Just differentiate that series. So it will become C1 plus C2 into 2x minus x naught plus C3 into 3x minus x naught the whole square and so on. Similarly, you calculate y double dash also. You know how to do it. I will not write it. Then you substitute this y dash and y double dash in the given equation. And the right hand side is 0. Then you should collect the terms together. Collect all constant terms. Then you collect all x terms. Collect all the coefficient of x. Then you collect all the coefficient of x square and so on you should do and equate it to 0. Since the right hand side is 0, every coefficient must be equal to 0. This gives you some equations in the constant C0, C1, C2 and so on. You have to solve them. Most of the times you will get C2, C3, C4 and so on in terms of C0 and C1. If the initial condition is not given, it is not solvable completely. You have to keep the answer in C0 and C1 only. Like the assignment problem I gave you. I did not give you initial condition and I told you to write the answer in C0 and C1 only. Suppose the initial condition is given to you, then you have written the series, right? Y of x equal to C0 plus C1 into x minus x naught and so on. That series assumption you have done, this is C1. Here you should substitute x equal to 0 and you should write the value of y of 0 given in the question. Y of 0 equal to C naught plus etc. etc. and y of 0 is given to you in the question, says for example as 2. Then you can substitute that. This will help you to get the value of C naught. Similarly, you substitute y dash of x you find out and you substitute 0. Y dash of x you've already found out, so you don't have to find it out again. You substitute x equal to 0 on both the sides. Initial value condition y dash of 0 is also given to you. By solving the equation, you will get the value of C1. Sometimes you may get two equations involving C0 and C1. Solving them simultaneously, you will be able to find C0 and C1. This is if the initial value condition is given. Otherwise, you leave the question in terms of, leave the solution in terms of C0 and C1. Okay. Now, going ahead with
Ma'am, can you scroll up for a second? That y dash and y part after you chose the x naught coefficient.
this
Yeah,
part.
on this step, y, yeah. What did you do here? Y of
I
1
just
is equal to.
differentiated. Y of x was a series, no? I just differentiated y. Derivative of C0 is 0 because it's a constant. C1 is a constant, you keep it as it is. Derivative of x minus x0 is 1. That's what I wrote there. And the next term is C2 is constant, I keep it as it is. X minus x0 square derivative is 2 into x minus x0. That's all. Term by term we differentiate. Similarly, you differentiate one more time, you will get y double dash.
Okay.
Okay. Now, next after this, what I did is Bessel function.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, can you explain the Bessel's function by solving one question?
Which type of question you want?
One example.
Most of the question that is a recurrence relation.
Yes, ma'am.
Because everything is based on recurrence relation only.
Ma'am,
Yes,
a proof question of Bessel maybe.
Proof question.
No,
Should I
ma'am,
do this?
not a proof question. Any particular question.
Shall we recall one? Most of the times this is used, so I can recall this problem for you. You can prove that this is equal to root of 2 by pi x, 3 by x sin x, 3 minus x square by x square into cos x. We want to find out what is known. I have told you that you can use j half and j minus half. We have derived, I will write here, j half of x, we have derived that as root of 2 by pi x sin x. And we also derived j minus half of x as root of 2 by pi x cos x. These two you can use straightforward. You don't have to derive them again and again. You can use these two to find out j minus pi by 2. You can now look at the table and see which formula will be useful for this. Look at the table. The 8 formulae which I sent to you, right? I will also open the table because my numbers are shuffled. I shuffled the equations and then gave it to you. Do you have the table with you?
1 second, ma'am.
Yes. So is there something that relates? What is the relation between half and minus half? If you choose n equal to half, then n minus 1 is minus half. The difference between them is 1. So you should know some formula that relates n and n minus 1 or n and n plus 1, something like that. And your aim is to find out j minus 5 by 2 of x. And how are we going to do it? Through, first we need to find out j minus 3 by 2 of x, because the difference, why minus 3 by 2? The difference between minus 3 by 2 and minus half is 1. And the difference between minus half and plus half is also 1. There is a recurrence relation which relates n minus 1 and n plus 1. Look at that. Which one is that? The one which relates n minus 1 and n plus 1.
The third one?
Third one has a derivative in it, right?
J n dash.
Yes. Is there anything
Fourth
without
one?
the... Yes. Fourth one relates n minus 1, n plus 1 and n. So you can use the fourth relation. You will call this minus 3 by 2 as n minus 1 and minus half as n and half as n plus 1. If minus half is n, go 1 down, you get minus 3 by 2, go 1 up, you get n plus 1. So this relation will be up to use in this formula. Okay. So now I want to find out minus 3 by 2, right? I'll write it below. So I want to find out jn minus 1. So I'll keep jn minus 1 on one side and take the other terms to the other, jn plus 1 to the other side. So I'll write it as 2n by x jn of x minus jn plus 1x. This is one often used recurrence relation. That is why I thought of doing this formula. Okay, I gave in class also like 3 by 2 and 5 by 2. I gave on positive side, not the negative one. So similarly, we can do this negative one also. Okay. So now what is my n? N equal to minus half, right? So j minus 3 by 2 of x equal to, I am going to substitute n equal to minus half. 2 into minus half upon x, j minus half x minus j half x. You know what is j minus half x and j half x, you can substitute for it. Well, let me write here, this is minus 2, 2 it will get cancelled, minus 1 upon x, j minus half x is root of 2 by pi x cos x minus j half of x, that is root of 2 by pi x sin x. This is j minus 3 by 2. My aim is to find j minus 5 by 2. Now I will apply the same relation choosing n as minus 3 by 2. So n plus 1 becomes minus half and n minus 1 becomes minus 5 by 2. Same relation I want to use. I will again use that formula. Jn minus 1 of x equal to 2n upon x jn of x minus jn plus 1 of x. Now what is my n? N is minus 3 by 2. Substitute. Divided by x, j minus 3 by 2 of x minus j minus half of x. We just now found what is j minus 3 by 2 of x. We will substitute for it. Minus 3 by x. Let me go up and I will substitute for j minus 3 by 2. This entire thing minus 1 by x into root of 2 by pi x cos x. Then root of 2 by pi x sin x. Minus j minus half of x, that is root of 2 by pi x cos x. That's all. Now you just simplify, you will get the final answer. If you know this 8 formulae which is given in the table, and if you know j half and j minus half by heart, you will be able to solve almost all problems of Bessel function.
And we have to also learn
Repeat.
those 6 recurrence relations, right? 8.
That is what 8 recurrence relation and j half, j minus half. If you know all these things by heart, 8 recurrence relations, j half and j minus half, you will be able to solve the problems. And then comes Legenders. What kind of questions we did in Legenders was only writing powers of x in terms of Legender function or polynomial in Legender function. I do not want to derive those polynomials again. This is a time-taking process. But I think you can do it because I made you do 2 of them on your own. You have to by heart that formula, the solution for Legender's equation, Pn of x. That you need to by heart. Then by applying it directly, you will be able to get any Pn of x. And you should, it is better you by heart P1 to P4 at least. So that in deriving them, you should not waste your time. Okay, P1 to P4 you can by heart. That's all. No, in Legenders what is there? Actually it was quite mechanical. If you have any specific question in Legenders, you can ask. Otherwise, which question I can recall? Let me see. Just a minute. There is nothing actually I can revise. It was a, okay, suppose you have a polynomial. So shall I say this? One of the question which we usually do is, let f of x be equal to 3x cube plus 2x square plus x. You write it in terms of Legender function. If you do this, I think you'll be able to do for any power of x also, right? So how do we start with? You should start with the polynomial, Legender polynomial, in whose expression x cube is the highest power. So here you should start with P3 of x. What is P3 of x? P3 of x is 1 by 2, 5x cube minus 3x. So you can get an expression for x cube from this. 2P3 of x equal to 5x cube minus 3x. Take that minus 3x also to the other side. 5x cube equal to 2p3x plus 3x. So you get an expression for x cube. 2 into p3 of x plus 3x also you know in terms of Legender polynomial, p1 of x it is. The whole thing divided by 5. You have expressed now x cube in terms of Legender polynomial p3 and p1. Similarly, you can do for x square also. You should start with that polynomial in whose expression x square is the highest power. So that is p2 of x. So you start with p2 of x and you will get an expression for x square. That you substitute in the given polynomial. in place of x cube and x square, you should substitute these expressions. That gives you the final answer. This is what we have done in Legendre's function. All questions were revolving around the same idea. So I don't think we need to do anything extra here. Then that's all was there in differential equation. Legendre's was the last topic, right? Then I will come to complex
We also have
analysis.
Rodriguez equation.
But I did not use it for deriving Legendre
Yes.
polynomial.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
You need to differentiate it n times actually. Why to? If you want, you can definitely. But I generally don't prefer Rodriguez formula to derive Legendre polynomials.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, let us come to analytic functions. Okay. Differentiation derivative is defined very similar to the real derivative. It is limit as x tending to 0, sorry, I should say z tending to h tending to 0 here, delta z tending to 0, I say. F of z plus delta z minus f of z divided by delta z. This limit, if it exists, then you say the function is differentiable at z, and the derivative is denoted as f dash of z. But when for complex functions, we use the word analytic to mean that the function is differentiable. Do we need to take the limit every time? No, that's the speciality of complex differentiable functions. You write the function, arrange the terms like u of xy plus I v of xy by substituting z is equal to x plus iy. Separate them into real and imaginary part. If condition number 1, Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied. Condition number 2, if the partial derivatives are continuous, if both the conditions are satisfied, then you say the function is differentiable or analytic at whatever point you are checking, or in general in a domain. You are given a subset of the complex plane. At every point of this domain, if Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied, what are they? Dou u by dx, dou x should be equal to dou v by dou y, and dou u by dou y should be equal to minus of dou v by dou x. If this condition is satisfied, and if dou u by dou x, dou u by dou y, dou v by dou x, dou v by dou y, all partial derivatives are continuous, then you say that the function f of z is analytic in whatever domain it is defined. This is how we checked differentiability of most of the functions we did. Or if it is easy to express the function in terms of r and theta, then Cauchy-Riemann equations are given as this: dou u by dou r equal to 1 by r dou v by dou theta, and dou u by dou theta equal to minus r dou v by dou r. Here also it is necessary to check that the partial derivatives are continuous. Only when both conditions are satisfied, you can say that the function is analytic. I had asked this in the quiz just as true or false question, that if Cauchy-Riemann equations are satisfied, then the function is differentiable. Some of you had marked it as true. How can it be true? We have repeatedly said that only when both conditions are satisfied, the function is analytic at a point. And when we did problems, we have checked both the conditions. We never said once CR equations are satisfied, the function is analytic. If you check only one condition, it is wrong. Other condition may not be satisfied. You should always check both the conditions. One of them is satisfied, then there is no guarantee that the function is analytic. When CR equations are satisfied and when Cauchy-Riemann equations, the partial derivatives are continuous, only then you can say that the function is analytic. Keep this in mind. Okay. Next comes finding the map f of z when one of u or v is given. Before that, if f of z is expressed as u of xy plus I v of xy, there's one fact we should know about u and v. They are harmonic functions. They'll satisfy Laplace equation, that is dou square u by dou x square plus dou square u by dou y square equal to 0. Second order partial derivative with respect to x plus second order partial derivative with respect to y will be equal to 0 for both u and v. They are harmonic functions. If there is a harmonic function u or v, it is possible to construct a function f of z whose real part is u or whose imaginary part is v. And how did we do it? I taught it using Milne-Thomson method. I said you can do it without that also, but the derivative f dash of z sometimes is complicated. You may not be able to write it as a function of z quickly. So what method we followed is this. Say suppose u is given to you. Then f dash of z can be expressed in this formula ux minus I uy. You can find out partial derivative of u with respect to x and y. That gives you the derivative f dash of z. Here you put x equal to z and y equal to 0. You get the function f dash of z in z. Then you simply will have to integrate it to find out what f of z is. This thing. Integral of this thing will give you f of z. This is the most important step. This anyway you will do. You know the derivative formula and this partial derivative also you can calculate. After you do that, you have to put x equal to z and y equal to 0. To get the function as a function of z, then you integrate. Supposingly imaginary part is given to you. We have 4 different formulae for f dash of z. What are they? F dash of z is equal. They come from Cauchy-Riemann equations. Ux equal to vy and uy equal to minus of vx. Right? One formula is this. Ux minus I vy. Uy. Both in terms of u. Sorry, this is z. Suppose I want to write both in terms of y. What is ux equal to vy? What is uy equal to minus of vx? So it's minus of minus plus, it will become ivx. If imaginary part is given to you, then use this formula for finding f dash of z. But here also you can put x equal to z and y equal to 0 to get the function in terms of z and integrate. The idea is same. Only that the formula for writing the derivative will change. And there is also another idea here. U plus v or u minus v can be given to you. How did we do this? If f of z is u plus iv, then I into f of z is ui minus v. And if you add these two equations, you get 1 plus I into f of z equal to u minus v plus I times u plus v. So if for this function u minus v becomes the real part and u plus v becomes the imaginary part. If u minus v is given, then you can find a function whose real part is u minus v. But what is that function? 1 plus I into f of z. To find f of z, you have to divide the answer by 1 plus I. That's all. So suppose say this function is g of z. This you can find out by Milne-Thomson method. After you find out g of z, then To find f of z, you simply will have to do 1 upon 1 plus I into g of z. I wanted to do one problem, tutorial problem, because many students were saying that the answer was not coming and all. So I thought I'll do that. Just for recalling, it was this problem. F of, I find the analytic function whose real part is sine 2x. I'll write it here. Sine 2x divided by cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x. This is real part, right? So we will call it u. I'll quickly find out u of x by using u by v rule. It is cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x into derivative of sine 2x, that is 2 cos 2x, minus sine 2x into derivative of the denominator, that is minus 2 sine 2x, divided by cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x the whole square. Don't simplify it. That's a waste of time. Directly compute uy. There is no y in the numerator, so I don't have to apply u by v rule. I can keep sine 2x aside because it's treated as a constant. Only the remaining I will differentiate. Minus 1 upon cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x the whole square into derivative of cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x with respect to y. Cos 2x is again constant, so I don't need to worry about it. What is derivative of cos hyperbolic 2y? Derivative of cos hyperbolic is sine hyperbolic y, right? So, but there is a 2 here. Cos hyperbolic 2y, derivative is sine hyperbolic 2y into 2. This is the derivative. Now you directly write f dash of z. Don't simplify anything. F dash of z becomes cos hyperbolic 2y plus, that I can write as cos square 2x is fine, minus of minus is plus 2 sine square 2x divided by cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x the whole square minus I 2 sine hyperbolic y sine 2x divided by cos hyperbolic 2y plus cos 2x the whole square. Now what am I going to do? As usual, I will substitute x equal to z and y equal to 0 without simplifying anything. What is cos hyperbolic of 0? Cos hyperbolic formula is this. I'll write it here. Cos hyperbolic y is e raised to y plus e raised to minus y upon 2. So what is cos hyperbolic 2y? E raised to 2y plus e raised to minus 2y upon 2. If you put y equal to 0, you'll get 1 plus 1 upon 2. That is 2 upon 2, which is 1. So cos hyperbolic 0 is 1. What is sine hyperbolic y formula? It's e raised to y minus e raised to minus y upon 2. Now if you substitute 0 here, you get 1 minus 1 upon 2. That is 0. Okay. So now you directly get the values by putting y equal to 0. So that is why I said don't simplify. I will write f dash of z here in terms of z. Cos hyperbolic 2y is 1, we just now evaluated. Cos square 2x plus sine square 2x is 1. So adding these two, I'll simply write 2 divided by, no, that's all I have. Was there one more term there? No, I did not multiply. That's all I was wondering. this into this, no, I did not write that 2 cos 2x term with this. First term is cos hyperbolic 2y into 2 cos 2x. That is missing, no? So I have to put x equal to 0 there, or x equal to z there also. So I will get 1 2 cos square 2x plus 2 sin square 2x. That was 2, and the remaining term is 2 cos hyperbolic 2y, we got it as 1. Remaining was cos of 2x. I substitute x equal to z, I will get the answer as 2z. Divided by cos hyperbolic 2y, that is 1 again, cos 2z the whole square. And I put x equal to z and y equal to 0. That's all. Coming to the imaginary part of it, minus I into, we said there is no need to substitute. Sine hyperbolic 0 is 0, I said. So since numerator has sine hyperbolic 2y, everything is going to become 0. And therefore the answer is 2 into 1 plus cos 2z divided by 1 plus cos 2z the whole square. You can cancel 1 plus cos 2z. There's no imaginary part. It in fact becomes just I times nothing. Z will of course be x plus iy. So I should not say there's no imaginary part. It is 2 upon 1 plus cos 2z. Now how to find out f of z? F of z is 2 into integral of 1 upon 1 plus cos 2z dz. It is of the form 1 plus cos 2 theta. I can replace it by cos square theta. So it's 2 into integral 1 upon cos square z dz. Integral of 1 by cos square z can be written as sec square z, and integral of sec square z is tan z. So it's 2 into integral of sec square z dz, and the answer is 2 tan z. Of course, plus some constant can be there. So this is how this sum should be. Sorry?
Give it 2 cos square z.
2 cos square z. Yeah, right. It is 2 cos square z. So I can cancel it with that numerator 2. Yeah, thank you. Do you want me to scroll this up?
No, ma'am, it's fine. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Then the same kind of problem can be given in polar coordinate also. There also idea is same. You will write first f dash of z and you will put r equal to z and theta equal to 0. Same as this. Then you will get f dash of z in z. You can integrate and get the answer. Okay. Then what did we do? We did conformal mapping. In conformal mapping, what kind of questions are asked? You are
Can you
given
scroll
some
up a bit?
Yes. You will be given some region, usually a circular or rectangular, some known region, triangular region.
Ma'am,
Up,
down.
down?
Last step, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Got it. You can continue.
Okay. Usually a triangular, circular or rectangular region is given to you and you are told to find the image of that region. These are the kind of questions we have done in conformal mapping. And you did well in the tutorial, these kind of questions. So I don't think you have any problem in this. What is the idea for that? Maybe I'll recall the idea. you are given something like f of z equal to in something like z plus c, or something like 2z, 3z, or something like e raised to I pi by 2z, something like this will be given. You generally call that f of z as w. Who is this w? U plus ip. You express z as x plus iy on the right hand side. Then you get equations for x and y in terms of u and v. This is the idea, fundamental idea. Once you do this, you'll be able to substitute the lines x. Usually the lines are given in terms of x and y. X equal to 1 or x equal to 3, y equal to 3. Like this the lines are given. You can substitute those lines here. You'll get some equation in terms of u and v, like u plus v equal to 3, u plus v equal to 1, something like this, which you can draw. So fundamental idea is to get x and y in terms of u and v. If you achieve this, you will be able to find out the image. Or sometimes if the equation is given in terms of modulus, what I told you was you don't have to write it in terms of u. You can directly substitute, for example, in the question w equal to 1 by z. I told you what was the equation given, z minus something, a equal to r, suppose. Then I told you, you write z as 1 upon w and you directly substitute 1 by w here, which the w can further be written as u plus iv. This is also a complex number, so I can write it as a plus iv equal to r. Then you take modulus, first you take LCM, 1 minus a plus ib into u plus iv divided by u plus iv equal to r. Now you take this u plus iv to the right hand side, then apply modulus formula after simplifying this. Then you will get the equation directly in terms of uv. Most of the times as u square plus v square equal to something, or u minus a the whole square plus v minus a the whole square equal to something. It becomes a circle. Whenever modulus is involved, remember that you will get a quadratic equation, because the formula of modulus involves square, root of x square plus y square. So since it involves square, most of the times the answer will be a circle for any equation that involves square. Yes, if the domain region is a circle passing through origin, then you will get a straight line here. That problem you did in tutorial. You got v equal to 1 by 6 or something, which was a straight line. If it is the domain is circle passing through origin, only then it's a straight line here, otherwise you will get a circle. Okay, then came bilinear transformation. I think everybody followed that also. You can, what are the kind of problems there? Finding fixed points or given 3 points of z and 3 points of w. That is the image. W is of the form f of z equal to az plus b upon cz plus d. You are usually given 3 z points, say z1, z2, z3, which are carried to w1, w2, w3. The images of these points. F of z1 equal to w1, f of z2 equal to w2, f of z3 equal to w3. So you can substitute z1 here in place of z and substitute w1 here. Similarly, substitute z2 and w2, substitute z3 and w3, you get some equations which you can solve. Or if is infinity, then you can solve by preserving cross ratio technique. Take the cross ratio on both the sides. For z, z1, z2, z3, w, w1, w2, w3. Substitute the points given to you. Get rid of infinity by dividing by that variable on both sides. Then by simplifying the equation, you will get the function. These are the two methods we use for finding bilinear transformation. This was the last part of complex differentiation. Then comes complex integration. Here the difference is that we are doing path integral. So given 2 points, say z equal to z1 and z equal to z2, it is usually joined by a path. We took straight line path, or we took circular path, or we have also taken parabolic path in a tutorial problem, or general parametrization which will be given to you. These are the 4 kind of paths. What is the idea of solving? Suppose it consists of the curve which is given to you consists of piecewise curves like this. Piecewise straight lines or piecewise curves. Then you have to call each piece as some Ci, C1, C2, C3. Integrate the function along each of this path and add the answers to get the final answer. You have to keep the orientation also in mind. Okay, and main idea is you have to either express y in terms of x or x in terms of y, and keep the limit for only one variable, the independent variable that you have chosen. There will not be complex limits. This I kept telling in the tutorial repeatedly. The limits will be real. Either the limit of x or the limit of y. X and y are real numbers, remember. X plus iy, x is real, y is real. X plus iy is complex, but real and imaginary parts are real numbers. So that limit will also be real numbers only, not complex. Express f of z and derivative both in terms of x and y. Simplify this, integrate and then put the limits. Or as I said in the last case, that is general parametrization, both can be given as a function of t. X is some f of t and y is some g of t. It is possible that both are expressed in t, in which case you will substitute dx and dy also in terms of t. Then simplify the inside function and integrate. In this case, what should be the limit? You need to see, usually something like this is given. X equal to t, y equal to t square will be given to you. Then say suppose the lower limit is 0 plus I0 and the upper limit is 1 plus I. You need to see for which value of t you will get the lower limit. If you put t equal to 0, both x and y become 0. So the lower limit should be chosen as 0. If you put t equal to 1, both x and y become 1. So that gives you the upper limit. Look at the upper limit. X plus iy equal to 1 plus I. X is 1, y is 1. So you need to put that value of t which gives you the upper limit. So here t equal to 1 gives you the upper limit. Inside everything is in terms of t. You can separate this into real and imaginary part. And then do the integration. That's all I think. The statement of Cauchy integral theorem. I also gave an easier version of that statement. Suppose you have an analytic function, analytic on and inside of a closed curve, simple closed curve, then integral of c of f of z equal to 0. This is called Cauchy integral theorem. So I have done only up to this much in class. I have stated till this point. Now if you have any specific doubt, you can ask me.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, while solving questions, if we have any doubt, where can we send you?
You can mail it to me.
Thank you, ma'am.
And
Yes, Sahil.
did you check my M1 exam? I sent you the
Where
PDF.
have you posted it? It was not a mail, right?
No, I sent it on Teams.
Chat. Private chat?
Hmm.
I didn't see there. I thought you sent a mail.
I sent
Okay,
it
I'll go through. Okay. If there is no specific doubt, then you are free to leave the meeting.
Thank you.
Those who have doubt can, yeah, welcome. Those who have doubts can stay and ask your doubts.